Welcome to Conversations Live, where we bring you the best in music, books, entertainment, and more. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 16 years of broadcasting, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience and those tuning in online. We're glad you all can be with us. I'm really excited to welcome artist Gwen AP to our program today. Gwen is one of those individuals who's been able to allow her creativity to be able to speak for her. She's been able to share that work literally with the world. I got a chance to know about Gwen, though, because of a film we've been talking about on this program since last year called Impossible Monsters. Gwen has her artwork featured in this particular film. We'll talk to her about that experience, but also let you guys know how to stay connected with her and all the great things that are going on with her. Gwen, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Cyrus, thanks for having me so much.
Hey, glad to do it. So, Gwen, I'm always excited to speak to artists. I'm a visual artist myself, so I always love to be able to geek out with fellow artists on this program because I think, a lot of times when we see, different films come to life or we see fashion, a lot of times we don't think about the people who helped to make that possible. You're one of those people now who's been able to do what you love, and like I said, to be able to share that with all of us. How does it feel to be able to have a gift and now to be able to share that gift with all of us?
I think as an artist, it's kind of something you're born with, like this need to kind of express yourself. And as you get older and your art kind of develops, I think you grow and different projects help you grow a little bit more. So I'm just thankful for all the art that I've had and all the growth I've been able to accomplish along the way.
When did you discover it for yourself, Gwen, that art was something that you wanted to do?
I think in childhood, I was always kind of the kid in the back of the classroom sketching and getting yelled at for drawing when they should be paying attention. But I always got really good grades. And art was just a really important outlet for me. I didn't come from a good family, and my mother was very abusive. So art was kind of something that was mine, and nobody could kind of take away from me. And then in college, I kept painting and used my art to make friends with a band called the Disco Biscuits. And the bass player gave me an opportunity to live paint at a festival that they throw called Camp Bisco. And that was kind of my first time painting in front of a large crowd where other people could see my work. And it kind of just developed from there.
It's funny you mentioned that. One of the things I noticed when I was prepping for this segment, Gwen, I actually read an interview that you did talking about that. I mean, I have been at places where there's an artist there that's there may be music playing and they're creating art. But I love the fact that in this article that I read about you, you talked about how in this process, now of course were you able to share, but also you kind of went on the discovery. Did you find that your gift, that your art, was kind of one of the ways that you discovered your own power?
Yeah, very much so. I actually went to college to be a teacher, and then I got pregnant, had a family, and realized teaching wasn't a thing. And then that's kind of when I rediscovered a band, that I really liked through college, and kind of rediscovered myself through music and through art, and realized that was a really big part of my identity and who I am. And it's great when you find other creatives that you can bounce off of and kind of grow each other's power of creation.
Well, I think that is the thing. I love the fact, I want to actually quote this article. It was found on headcount.org. And the thing that stood out to me, you mentioned your daughter in that interview, Gwen, and the thing that you said is art gets to be interpreted in any way you so choose. So there's no right or wrong in art. In art, the spirit is that you tell everyone that they did a good job and that everybody's an artist. It's just a very positive type of experience. I think that's such a powerful thing because I think in a world where people try to tell you who you are supposed to be and what you're supposed to do, did you find that art kind of gave you that freedom?
It did, and it's funny, when I was student teaching, I'd student teach art every once in a while, and you get a class of kindergartners, and you ask, raise your hand if you're an artist, and every single hand goes up because every kid at that age is an artist and has that confidence. Yeah. And somewhere along the way, some of us kind of lose that, and as an adult, I never really felt like I could call myself an artist. Like I hadn't achieved like a Picasso or a Monet, so I wasn't really an artist. And I think that's kind of part of the struggle. And I think that each time I do, a different collaboration with a band, or I collaborated with the Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra, or the Art Museum, it gives me a little more confidence and a little more strength in my own power and being able to kind of follow my own dream. I felt like at the beginning, the Disco Biscuits giving me a chance was, I don't know, it was kind of this little bit of magic that fell into my lap. So I just kept taking advantage of different opportunities, and the more I expressed myself, the more these opportunities seemed to present themselves.
And again, I think that is the beautiful thing about it. For those who are just tuning in on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome artist Gwen AP to our program. We're talking to Gwen not only about her love of the arts, but also what it's been like for her to share that with all of us, and then, of course, to be able to find her voice along the way and the power of that voice. And as I mentioned, Gwen, you've had the privilege of literally sharing your gifts with the world, not only, of course, in those who got to know you because of musical events, but now because of this movie as well. And as I mentioned to you before we began the segment, had a chance to have a great conversation with Nathan, the director of Impossible Monsters, and he was so excited about this project. Of course, this year I've had a chance to talk with some of the cast as they've now been able to kind of see it now, see the light of day finally, and being able to be seen by more people. What was that phone call like for you? Because Nathan talked about in an interview last year, not with us, but with another outlet, about the call to you and asking you about being a part of this project. What was that like for you to be a part of this?
It was really awesome, and I mean, at first I was very flattered that he thought of me, and the more that he talked to me about the project and about his vision, the more excited I got. And as we spoke, he talked about how he wanted everything to kind of have a character, and the shadows add to the character, and the music adds to the character. And then as I read the script, I mean, he sent me the script, and I think I read it 2 or 3 times right in a row, because there's this moment at the end. It's almost like I want to liken it to Sixth Sense, but not quite, where it makes you want to go back and reread it and be like, whoa, wait a minute, I need to see that again. So it really kind of, as just a viewer and a reader, I was really intrigued. And then as I started to think about who Otis was, the artist character in this, and really think about what his, beginning collection of paintings would look like versus when he has this moment where, the switch kind of flips and he cracks and his paintings get danker and deeper and more disturbing. So for me, it was such a license to get weird. Before that, I was painting. I did a lot of music and art festivals at that point in time, Bonnaroo, Electric Forest. So I was painting abstract, a lot of bright colors, movement, smaller canvases. But when Nate gave me this project, he wanted large-scale canvases. He asked me to reference a few artists that I'd never discovered before, so I was excited to kind of take things from their art and bring it into mine. And just doing these large-scale paintings, it's such a different process altogether. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I thought was interesting about this interview that Nathan did last year when he mentioned sending you the script and everything, and I thought, again, I don't think us on the outside who just enjoy the film, because I had seen the film before I even had talked to Nathan, and then, of course, before I started talking to the cast. So, of course, before I even knew who the artist was, I had seen this, and it's like, okay, then when I found out exactly who had done the work, then it's like, oh my goodness, how did she get it just right? I mean, so how does that feel now to be a part, to have your creativity kind of merge with someone else's creativity?
I mean, it's really quite humbling, and it's funny because at the beginning when he approached me about the paintings, it was before he had done the cast. So we were just kind of guessing skin tones and features and things like that in some of the paintings. And I used myself and my husband as reference photos. And in one of the reference photos, my husband had cheese whiz coming out of his mouth and saran wrap to kind of make this ripping, tearing, exploding kind of feel. And the painting ended up being a painting of Santino Fontina, who plays Dr. Rich Freeman. And it's funny now to think I didn't know it was going to be Santino that was the actor, but it's kind of this great serendipity that the paintings just kind of seem to match up and line up so much. And I think that's very much attributed to Nate had a very clear vision about what he wanted, and he kept pushing me, Gwen, go bigger. Gwen, make it look like there's more chunks of flesh exploding. And that's not something that, normally when you're painting pieces to sell to the general population, that's not what you want to paint. So it was really invigorating, and it allowed me to tap into this part of myself that, was weird and was deeper. And the more I brought that to the outside, the more I realized I was able to create bonds with other artists that were this deeper thing because they saw what I was creating and they felt that. And I think there was a lot of that too, kind of just in the film and the back and forth with the music and the paintings and the actors. I mean, it all really has this kind of monsters feeling.
Yeah. So I have to have a couple of artsy questions to ask you, Gwen, because I think this is going to be good for our audience, especially on the radio side, because a lot of times, unfortunately, and I normally mention this when I'm talking to actors or recording artists and even producers and directors, we're told, or at least try to be compared to be the next X, Y, or Z. What is giving you the courage just to be yourself? Because, if people have not seen your artwork, we're definitely going to invite them to go to their website, but I definitely want you guys to go to her Instagram page, which is artist Gwen AP. And it's great to be able to just to see you be free as an artist. But so many people feel like they have to be stifled to kind of conform if they want to, quote unquote, fit in or to be, more marketable. What is giving you the courage to just say, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I think it's having the courage to take a chance and take a leap if you don't know what's on the other side. And I felt like for me, my career kind of started like that when, the Biscuits gave me this chance to live paint. I'd never done that before. And it's like, all right, like you got to figure it out. How bad do you want it? Can you do it? And I think the more of those that you do and you challenge yourself, I mean, some of them don't work out, but the ones that do are worth the risk. So it's really being able to take the chances and try new things. And I think that more than anything allows you to grow as an artist, because I do know a lot of artists that, year after year, they produce the same thing. They found their niche, and it's a great niche, and you work your niche. But for me, I feel like my art grows with me, and the more I transform as a person and the more I become more confident in myself, more confident in my work, the more kind of raw and deep and vulnerable I can allow myself to be. And I think that that allows me to connect to an audience in a different way. So I think it's just, I don't know, having the ability to push yourself to take that leap, even if you don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah. And the other question I'll ask you in that same vein then, Gwen, is, you are, by doing that, you're setting an example. You're kind of leading a charge. How does that feel when you hear from other artists how much you've inspired them?
It's really kind of amazing when I have a chance to talk to people and hear that I've inspired them because 9 months, 10 months out of the year, I'm just in my studio by myself. I can't tell if my art's good unless I post it on Instagram and get a lot of likes. So usually festival season is great because then I get to see people. And last year this girl came up to me and I'd kind of known her sporadically, but not really well. And she said, you were the first female live painter I ever saw. And you showed me that I could do it. And I don't know, it was a really big moment. And she has now inspired me a lot and taught me some things as we've become friends. So it's just, I don't know, it's very humbling and it's crazy because, I do what feels right. And it's crazy when people tell me that it impacts them.
Yeah. I think you just said a mouthful right there, Gwen. You do what feels right. And I think so many people, unfortunately, don't. They don't listen to the voice. They try to listen to what someone else says they should do instead of listening to what's really true to them. And I think that's the beautiful thing about what you've been able to do. Again, everyone, artist Gwen AP has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Gwen. We've been talking with her not only about her journey in the arts, but also what it's been like for her to be able to find herself, to be able to share her talent, and now the world is taking notice. Gwen's art is featured in the film Impossible Monsters. And Gwen, I mentioned it earlier, but how can our audience stay connected with you and kind of keep up with the work that you're doing?
So my website is www.gwenap-arts.com. I post all of my most recent things on Instagram. I think you mentioned earlier at artist Gwen AP. I hashtag everything, hashtag Gwen AP. So that's pretty much the best way to keep in touch.
All right. Well, Gwen, congratulations to you. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to having you back on the program again.
Thanks for having me, Cyrus. This was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Hey, the pleasure is definitely all mine, and we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's make the day amazing.